All right, good morning, everyone. This is Ron. God, believe it or not, it's already February 1st, Saturday morning, a little after 10 a.m., February 1st. We'll get started and see if we have questions about anything. Lots going on out there. Anybody has any questions like to get us started today? Okay. Um, I have a question, and it's something we've talked about in the past, but seems like things are accelerating to me. And I was telling Pastor I don't always follow the news anymore because things kind of eat at my wall, and they I don't uh, follow it because I can't handle all of that, and I like feeling strong. I like knowing who and where I am. And sometimes it just kind of catches you at a bad time when you're already tired and it can make you feel defeated. So I try to stay away from a lot of it. However, it does seem that in the last few months that violence has accelerated greatly. Uh, I
You
saw,
can't keep staying on it.
I'm sorry. Hey, if you guys don't mind, everybody make sure your phones are muted, please. But just yesterday I read where uh a mother had killed her children, and that's always disturbing. In the last couple of months, I saw where a brother shot and killed his sister. I saw where a sister shot and killed her brother. That was just last week. And a lot of this didn't used to happen in our neighborhoods. There's always been violence in our neighborhood, but you never seen it to the degree that it seems to be escalating now, or it's more visual now. I don't know. Uh, and what do you guys see in that? Is that just well, no, it's not a coincidence, but talk to me. Has anybody noticed that?
I have noticed that it's more we see more of it now, and
Yeah.
I attribute part of that to social media and how easily it is to receive news on your phones, like news feeds.
Yes.
I attributed a lot of it to that. Um, I think that I think when we talk about um, things that we need to rid ourselves of, I think we don't realize or don't pay any attention to what we're saying. Um, we, in order for us to be able to function the way the Creator intended for us to function, every one of us know one thing if we don't know anything else, and that is our mindset has to change. And when we talk about changing our mindset, for that means that we have to um, what is that? Revisit our emotions so we can embrace the empathy and sympathy that we have, should have for each other, and the sense of family and belonging. There is there's a rupture in the society, and we don't talk about that. We talk about how divided the country is, But then the question that I raise is, the country is divided. So who divided it, and what did they use to divide it? So what are you talking about when you say the country is divided? Anyone would like to address that question before I continue to talk about it? I
Well,
know.
certainly, you have to add politics into that. Uh, that's and a lot of what I include in the politics is not only the left wing, right wing jargon that we hear and see daily, but all the wars and the violence that goes on that level as well. So all of that is a part of what tears at the fabric of who we are based on uh, who and what you believe, your culture, your ethnic background, because some of it seems like the unfair treatment, one group is treated a whole lot differently than others, and that also goes into tearing at the fabric of the country and further dividing us.
That is true. But I do think that it's a bit more complex than that. However, I would like to see if anyone else wants to speak to that.
Good morning, Ron. Good morning, everyone. This is GC in Philly. Just recently this week, I was able to, just observe, some comments with regards to the challenges that, we all have as human beings, but more importantly, sometimes we never hear of those that we may feel that are so-called prestigious, or in terms of not hearing the issues that we all have to deal with. I was listening, and it was actually John F. Kennedy's daughter who was speaking in reference to they're speaking to, I guess Robert Kennedy, in terms of, the issues that they were having, the turmoil in their family. And sometimes, again, we look at it where what we deal with at home is not necessarily something that someone else may deal with who's very affluent. But I think it comes down to what you were saying, Pastor, in terms of, dealing with emotions, regulations, dealing with, the ability to be able to, to stay calm under pressure, and just all of the things that we have to continue to be resilient on. But it was just interesting to listen, to the Kennedys, then you can, listen to the Trump, family, in terms of just things that sometimes, unless you really dig deep, you can find out more. But it was just interesting to hear them talk about, their challenges, their siblings, in a way where it made me think about the fact that we're not the only ones, but at the same time, again, how do we have empathy, or how do we have the right mindset to realize that, we all are in this. And so it just made me think about that, when Ron, just, started us off in terms thinking about the things that we see, the things that we hear. So I was just, interested just to hear that from the Kennedys and from, the Trumps, in terms of things that they deal with within their own, inner circle. But it's the same with all of us. I think we all are in the struggle, but at the same time, what is the what is the resiliency piece in terms of bringing loving kindness, balance, and harmony? What does it mean to us, if that resonates? I just want to share those thoughts. I'm done.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good morning, everyone. Ron, one of the things I want to add is
Can you speak up,
What,
speak
what's
up
that
a
again,
little bit,
sir?
George?
Okie doke. Then can you
There
hear me
you go.
now?
Yes.
One of the things that I want to add, and this is something that I see out here, and as it relates to violence, and it may not have anything to do with violence, yet things that I see that's it concerns me. I see a fair share of African American females who smoke cigarettes. And when I was growing up, there were women that smoked cigarettes and dipped snuff, yet I didn't see it as much. I also see a fair share of African American females who drink now. And I remember my father, he said there was a marquee of a wine cooler, and it was targeting black women or marketing toward black women. And my father said, they coming to get us. And it was just, so I'm not saying that I'm not critiquing a female that smokes cigarettes. I just know at the places I go, there are smoke areas, and I'm looking at sisters who are very attractive to me, smoking cigarettes. I'm looking at sisters at gatherings who drink like a man. So just want to know for people who work in the plant, Ron, what you see at your job, do you see a high number of African American females that smoking cigarettes? That's all I had to say. Thank you.
I had not thought about it from that perspective. I do know a couple that smoke. Uh, I know a couple in my family that smoke. I guess I'm looking at things from I hear what you're saying, because a lot of this, little bit of everything can go at starting things to unravel. And if I suppose I hear what you're saying is we've lost our roles in society or who we are, and that might be another whole topic. Uh, but I don't know, because women have been smoking for a while now. But I hear what you're saying with the drinking and all the other things. I'm not sure that's part of where I was going with it, but it just very well may be if somebody see something that ties that together, because everything goes into starting a snowball effect. But does anybody else want to address that? Do you see something different in that? Okay. Uh,
I will,
yes, sir.
it's a discussion for another day. And the reason I say that is because why does it have to be a woman who drinks like a man? How come it simply can't be those of us? Drinking has gotten to a place now where it is more dangerous in terms of our community or family structures than what it was in the past. As a divisive divisive element, or an element that does not end well for most people. So I think it is something for another discussion because this discussion I thought was about right now anyway. When I say another discussion, I'm not necessarily talking about next week or tomorrow. I'm talking about beyond what we started with about the divisiveness in family structures.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good morning. Can I add something?
Of course.
I was going to say one of the things that I've noticed that is dividing the families as well as the nation is the lack of love and respect that we have for one another.
Thank you.
That
Mm.
goes in Myra, what's a discussion I had with a young lady yesterday. She said, asked me, she said, have you noticed we're not a community anymore? And my answer was yes, I have noticed, but we've been moving in that direction for quite some time now. Uh, when and this came up, this really came up when we were talking with our group from California when they asked about community, and it made me think about some things. Uh, how and where I grew up, and knowing everybody in the neighborhood, and even if somebody new moved in, somebody sort of knew the family, and it wasn't long before they were a part of the group, and everybody knew each other, and even the extended neighborhoods. Uh, we had a sense of oneness that we no longer seem to have, and or even value anymore, and so that's a part of it. You're absolutely right.
I think that that is a part of the burning house that Martin Luther King was talking about when he said that he's afraid that he has integrated his word, my people, into a burning house. Um, I think that's part of what was being said there. That we are in a place that is not conducive to our family structures or to the structure that we once had or grew up with.
Yes.
Um, is there anyone else have anything to add, or a question you want to ask or comment? I think that when you raised the question about, or I made the statement rather about separateness is based on our mindsets. Excuse me. Hold 1 second, please. It is based on our mindsets. We did not experience a lot of this divisiveness in family structures at this level, nowhere near this level, when some of us grew up, and we had a strong sense of community, and the whole concept of community has nothing to do with how many people live in a neighborhood, but it does have something to do with a lot. Matter of fact, to do with knowing the people in your neighborhood and interacting with them in a way that makes everybody in that neighborhood family. The reason that there is division the way it is in the family structure is because there is division in the country. And the division in the country actually has an effect on the family structure, or structures in neighborhoods, structures in churches, and everything in the society. That energy that divides us subdivides us along the way. And when we really think about what's happening to us, it does not happen until after integration. So I do believe that we have to shift from that European mindset to that of the African mindset. As long as we had that, long as before integration, there were not people who thinking they made it because they had a bigger house than you, or because they had more money than you. We have been bought into a culture that does not exist. We bought into a mindset of greed and a mindset of selfishness. to the degree that people are ashamed to say that they need something. People are ashamed to say that they need you to help them. And the reason is because of the selfishness that has been inbred in this society, making everyone feel like if you don't have enough money to get what you want, you're an embarrassment. However, we didn't grow up like that.
Right.
So it's the mindset that we have to deal with. And I do not relish having to say this all the time, but the truth is the truth. When you talk about divisiveness, I maybe it's the younger generation who have always experienced this kind of divisiveness, but the majority of us have not. That's a new phenomenon for us, and we didn't pay it any attention because it actually infiltrated our mindset, our communities, without us giving any thought to it, to be honest with you. So here we are. We simply are in the process of aiding the society and shifting the mindset. And honestly, the best person or the most effective person who's aiding us and have a shift in our mindset is the current administration. This administration of Trump is doing more to bring people together and to rebuild a society than anyone has. I'm done.
Go into
Ron,
that.
this is Evelyn. I'm sorry. I yield.
I'm sorry, Evan. I'll just ask Pastor to go into that a little bit more in case somebody's new to this. What you mean by that with the current administration? We've talked about it several times, but just a little more detail, if you would.
Okay. Evelyn, was that the line of your question?
Well, yeah, it is. Well,
Okay.
it's not a question. Well, yeah, it's a comment and a question. When we were younger, and we learned that you honor your mother and your father, and we never heard before segregation. Now, we never heard that much. Oh, I never heard of a child killing their parent or siblings. And I could see what you mean by when you said that, you know, after segregation, all these things started trickling in into our mindset. So yeah, this is mind blowing. Parents afraid of their children. I don't remember a father or a mother being afraid of their children. So yeah, it's in line with what you're talking about with the politics that has flooded our minds and everything. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Politics and what we call success.
Yeah.
When I said that this administration has done more to bring people together and to create a better society, it's because all of the flaws are being exposed in this society. There has never been an attack on Africans and females in particular at this degree since slavery. And the more people become disillusioned with what's happening, the more people begin to subconsciously move towards each other for support, for a sense of strength, for trying to understand what's happening. And it forces people to unite. And the systems that are in place that speaks to systemic racism are being exposed. And with the exposure of them, it gives opportunity to set things in place in regards to in regards to the order of things. especially when we learned that Elon Musk put his people in this positions in the Treasury, and they're trying to get the codes to this computer system that pays the bills of the country, that distributes the money that's been earmarked for different things. It's been estimated that they send out over $1 trillion a year, and we know why he wants to have access to that system. So far, it hasn't happened, but it's in the process. So these kinds of things are what I'm. This is what I mean when I say that he's building a society. You cannot build on a foundation that a building is currently sitting on. The building has to be removed, the foundation removed, and that's what's happening right now. So that's what I mean by
Right.
that.
Morning, this is Audrey.
Morning.
I have a question, comment. And I see what you're saying, Pastor, but I do have a question about whether or not there was real community among us before integration. And I mean, I know there were pockets of real community, but there was a lot of stuff going on back then, and people had a lot to contend with in terms of racism and lack of housing and lack of any kind of help from anywhere in terms of government or anything like that. I mean, and I'm only speaking anecdotally based on things I've read and stuff like that. But I know there were pockets of community, but there were a lot of people suffering out there too. There was quite a bit of domestic violence. Women didn't have a voice. They just had to do whatever their supposed roles were supposed to be in the community. And it was women who did the work of community building anyway. So I think as time went on and now that women began to have a voice, I think they want more help in terms of community building because they haven't been getting it, I don't think. And I think you're right that all these things are being exposed now. And I also think because of the fact that we didn't really know who we were then, maybe a few of us did, but in general, we didn't know who we were. We were just struggling to survive, you know? So, I mean, I just wonder if we really had true community back then.
I think we did. However, regardless of what community structure is, there are going to be issues. And you're absolutely right. There was quite a bit of domestic violence, but there was also quite a bit of help given to people in the communities who didn't have as much as other people did. Example, there were people in the community who raised crops, who shared with people who didn't have anything. There were people in the community who I remember my cousins, they would come together to help fix someone's house if something happened to it or it burned down. Yes, we have always had issues. However, they were nowhere near as they are now. I don't remember children killing their parents. I don't remember that at all when I grew up. I don't remember the huge gaps between people in the community. For example, nobody in the community is respected now. Very few people are respected. And in the community that I grew up in, I'm sure others did as well, we had in that community people, especially elderly people, who were respected in that particular community. And a lot of it grew from our church interactions. And most church interactions were between families and families in a particular community. Because I know if I'm thinking back to when we grew up, the different churches that were um, what had members who were in the same families. St. Paul, we were related to pretty much everyone in that particular church. And I remember also that there were people who did not go to church, but if they needed something, we pulled together and helped them. But I also remember the juke joints that were in the community where there was violence, especially during the weekend. And that was an offshoot from slavery itself. The juke joints, the heavy drinking, the violence on it, that was an offshoot from that anyway, because of the way enslaved people, especially men, were forced to be drunk over the weekend. And I believe that we got further and further away from that. No, we didn't know who we were, but we thought we were Christians. And we thought that Christians act a different way than people who were not. And that in itself brought us together in a type of community structure. I've begun to see the breakdown of that even before integration. On the outer peripheries of our communities, when people went to college and moved up north and came back to the South, they separated themselves by virtue of saying, talking about how racist the South was, and not looking around them in the northern places where there is extreme racism. And the quiet parts of that racism could be seen when men could not get a job in the South to take care of their families. They moved to the North, and and there was documentation that when the white people who were renting found out what was going on in terms of them moving north to support send money to their families, they began to raise rent. They began to increase prices in grocery stores to the extent that the money that you were making, you had to live, that's all you had to live on. And that in itself began to separate families. But there are more instances that I know of the methodology to separate the African family than we have time to talk about it. But this system was put in place to separate the communities because they saw what was happening. They saw that it was you received 100 lashes for teaching someone to read, an African to read, and between 1865 with slavery in 1865, 96% of African people were illiterate. In 10 years, it was 60%. And by the 1900s, it was less than 20%. So what am I saying? There was a period when African people did something that no group of people had ever done. And that is go from being illiterate at 96% to I think 40 or 60% in 10 years. That has never happened before. And that was because of community. That was because of interaction with each other. And this happened with no help from anyone outside of our communities, as well as I remember when we had Wall Street in Union, and Wall Street was just us. And every time there was a Wall Street in the African community, it was burned, it was destroyed. Yes, there was violence. Yes, there were things that should not have been there, but none of those things were there. None of those things were there because that was a cultural thing with us. They were there because of what we had gone through and the people who we were mimicking. So
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, but that's where we are with that. But now I see, Audrey, the violence has quadrupled. I mean, not quadrupled, 1,000-fold to what when we grew up. And there is zero respect, pretty much, for elderly people. Elderly people has become a target to rob as opposed to protect. When even back in the day, when we were in the movement of nationalism and civil rights and stuff, you saw at night when you saw a Black woman walking the streets, you walked with her, you respected her. But now, when there are guys standing on the street and the woman is on the same side, she crosses the street in fear of what they may do to her. That happened since the 60s, 70s. That's when it began to take on a life of its own. Now, the thing that increased the violence in our communities, in our neighborhoods, was crack cocaine. The introduction of crack cocaine. They talk about the 94 crime bill in crack. But crack was introduced in our communities in the late 60s, early 70s. Well, early 70s, that's when it was introduced by the CIA into Los Angeles. So this has been going on. This effort to divide and destroy has been going on since then. And when they did that test run, they mean the CIA did that test run in Los Angeles and saw the destruction that it caused, they just allowed it to happen across the country. And here we are. And now that we are where we are, violence begets violence. And here we are in a space of time where the ultimate goal seems to be violence. And when you think about those men who were, and women who were pardoned by Trump, violence is okay, but as long as you're doing it for racist reasons. When we look at that, we see that the dominant force is like, I guess Machiavelli, might makes right. We are determined to, the society rather is determined to live according to its inception. And from the inception of the society, in order to form this colony called America, a tremendous violence took place, but yet we call it the barbarians. Tremendous violence. So this violence that took place at the Capitol is nothing new. It's just reminiscent of what has taken place in the past. And in order for things to change, then everything must be brought to the surface that needs to be changed. And that's what we are experiencing now. At least that's how I see it, that we are experiencing and unveiling of the true nature of this colony. I'm done. Thank you. I hope that what's the response to your question, that it helped.
Well, well, Rev, I agree with everything you're saying. Just one of the things that I think that really had an impact on the community is when the culture did say, "Nah, you didn't need a man," and everyone has a different perspective of that I respect. Yet that's very powerful. We all agree words are powerful, and words are not just powerful when Snoop Dogg say something or when there's profanity. That's a pretty powerful thing that our culture stated. I don't need a man, because you're telling, my opinion now, you're telling the very thing that gives you a man, which is femininity, and I believe femininity is the strongest energy out here. And I think we got into trouble with that, Reverend Richard, and all I'm saying in that, words are powerful. And when that was said, certain things took place in us. Yet I really think it just had a small impact on our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, my question is, who told women that they didn't need a man? Where did it come from? I'm waiting.
Rev, what did you say? I'm in these mountains. What did you say?
Who told women they did not need a man? Where did it come from?
CIA.
Well, I gotta answer that, y'all, or y'all can't answer that?
Nick was getting ready to respond, I think, George.
CIA.
Okay, well,
I'm being slightly facetious with that, but the oldest playbook, in the oldest strategy that exists if you want to destabilize resistance, is divide and conquer. When you insert division between masculinity and femininity in a certain way, it facilitates that goal. So I forget off the top of my head, but there are connections between intelligence agencies and the certain figures who are part of the sort of women's liberation movement. And not that I'm saying that was a negative thing. I'm saying that they were everywhere and they used whatever they could to their advantage. And part of that, I believe, was the introduction of the idea of the sort of pop culture concept of the independent woman, quote unquote. And again, I'm in no way saying that fundamentally is not it isn't a good thing, or at least not something that was needed in order to allow women the independence in reality to be able to stabilize themselves as a result of essentially being marginalized and abused. But like I said, every opportunity is used to their advantage. By they, I mean the sort of that mindset that wishes to see the destabilization of any opposition. Any stable consciousness as a group that stands in opposition to its desire to dominate everything. And I believe that they played a part in sort of fomenting that divide, at least on a cultural, superficial level, between men and women, in order to exploit that divide and conquer strategy. Again, I believe all these things are happening all at once. because women definitely were marginalized, did experience abuse, etc. But that sort of provided the opportunity to change, in some ways, the overarching cultural narrative. And I believe there are elements of the power structure that took advantage of that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. George?
Hey, Nick, thank you for your interpretation of that. And the only question I have for you, Nick, is
Hold on a minute, George. Would everyone make sure your phone is muted? 609, would you make sure your phone is muted? Go ahead, George.
just wanted to tell Nick thank you for what you added to that. And I do have some more stuff to say about it, but I'm just going to let it ride on out. Yeah, thank you for your interpretation of what I said. And Reverend Richard, all I wanted to convey to the group was when that was said by our culture, words are very powerful. And they not just powerful when Gangsta Rap saying something or Snoop Dogg saying something. Thank you very much.
Thank you, but our culture never said that. When you think about it, that pretty much did not enter our communities until the 70s. I don't remember growing up hearing a woman say she don't need a man. I don't remember that. And I agree with Nick 100%. The intelligence agencies did that on purpose. During the 60s, men started talking about, especially in the Pan-Africanist movement, men started talking about their queens. They started calling females their African queens. And they began to treat them differently than they had been treated in the past. And I don't remember a woman saying she didn't need a man, but I do remember as much as that it did not begin to take root until the 70s, early 70s. It started, late 70s it got stronger, and it was instigated by the intelligence agency, FBI, CIA, etc. Just like pretty much they're the ones who organized CNN so they could control the news cycle. But I think that women, especially African women, get blamed for things they had nothing to do with. Just like we were indoctrinated to think like white men, women were indoctrinated to say they don't need a man. But that, again, that was not in our community from the beginning. That what came from the intelligence agency. And things like that are still permeating our community, with their genesis being an intelligence agency. And we have to recognize it for what it is and stop blaming and start making every effort to purge things from our communities that are detrimental to our communities. And that purge is not going to be easy, but it's possible. Audrey?
I'm going to throw a wrench in here.
Go ahead.
I'll take myself, for instance. I was the last of my siblings to get married. And I never said I don't need a man. But the men that I saw and was around, especially the religious ones, I just wanted to go like this. Because I knew what they would have expected of me as a wife, what role I was supposed to play, and what I couldn't do, and all of that. And I just wasn't about to just walk into that.
Can't
So it made me pause. I never thought I don't need a man, but it made me pause.
And rightly so, rightly so. Black women, African women were put on the back burner and controlled just like white women were. And they were told to do. Ran the church, but couldn't do, had no influence in the church. That came later. Men who that Audrey is describing now was the huge problem. But there came a transition when women like Fannie Lou Hamer began to speak out. That's when the transition started taking place. And that's when the idea of not needing a man was put in our communities, our psyche of our females. And that was, as Nick said, the effort to divide and conquer. Men are still stuck on women who said they don't need a man. They're still stuck there when the vast majority of them never said that. And honestly, the reason they started saying that is because they refused to be controlled. And they played on that. And in playing on that, men could not take that and deal with it because, not because they felt like a woman who did not really need a man, but because they felt like a woman who was in a position where she made more money than them, or where she was more influential than they were, those men felt like they had been emasculated. And that's why they respond. That's why men always talk about negative about women, because they feel like they have been emasculated. And that's not their approach to it at all. I know a relationship where this woman made more money than the man, and that bothered him. And she was like, well, it's not my money, it's our money. And he could not get to that. And they ended up divorcing because he started acting crazy about her lording her money over him when she really wasn't. Though men have, especially black men, we got problems. We trying to be an African and we trying to be white. You got to make up your mind what you're going to be. If you believe if you believe in the concept of the cosmic mother existing, if you believe in that concept, then you have to purge yourself of the concept that women are trying to dominate you. They're not trying to dominate you. White folk told you that. The FBI told you that. CIA told you that they were trying to dominate you. Corporations told you that they were trying to dominate you. And yes, there are some who say what you bring to the table. There are some who say that. Now, women have been indoctrinated to believe that if you don't have a salary to bring to the table comparable to mine, then we don't have anything to talk about. And that is the case with the younger generation. When in reality, the way they further divided us is that they begun to give African women greater opportunity to make more money. And there were more African females in college in different positions than there were African males, because as everyone knows, the best educated people on the face of this earth are African women. Why is that so? Why is that? Because males were indoctrinated to believe that they couldn't cut it in college, or if you were smart, then you were not black enough, which is stupid as hell. But that's the attitude that prevailed, and that sunk into the psyche of African men. And even with that, African men still wanted to blame the African woman for what they themselves were indoctrinated with. At some point in our society, we are going to have to recognize the reality of what is true. The truth of the matter is this: no society will be stabilized without an African woman. Audrey made a powerful statement earlier when she said that community, for the most part, was established by females. The gist of what she said, anyway, a direct quotation I don't have. But am I on target with what you said, Audrey? And that is the truth. That is the truth. And if we cannot come to grips with that, if we hold on to the principles of indoctrination, then we cannot expect to deal with systemic racism, because that's a part of it. And the other crazy thing about me is this, about this whole thing about DEI. When you talk about who benefited from it, the top people who benefited from it was white women. Yet the African woman was the pivotal force, the strength that guided the communities, our communities. And here we are looking at them as though they are the problem. No. African women have two strikes against them. One, that they are women, and two, that they're African. But you know what the third strike is? Disrespect by black men. And that's why we are out. When we start embracing the reality of who our women are, when we respect them, when we see them for who they are, that there is no existence without them. I was listening to this video, and this guy said something that stuck with me. He said, black women are the most, the greatest creation that's on earth. And they are always given. You give them sperm, they give you a child. You give them a house, they give you a home. You give them, it was three things he said: a house, and they will give you a home. And the other one I cannot remember offhand. What was that third one? Did I write it? I did. I made a note of it. You give her your check, and she will bring stability. All those things are true. All those things are true. And until we can look at that, what I call a formula, or that concept of the nature of that African female. Why do I say the African female? Because the European female is not given stability based on receiving a check. The European attitude from white males is for them to control all the finances, and that results in instability in the home. and to control what goes on in the house that would make it a home. Those kinds of things should not be prevalent with us. We should have a shift to the concepts that I just mentioned about the given nature of that African female. Any questions or comments about anything that I've said?
I wouldn't mind backing up on something that we started talking about at the onset of this. I think Audrey bringing up her comment was right on point, because we're talking about uprooting things and exposing things, and one of the things that's needed discussing is our own neighborhoods, our own communities, and what they look like. Example, we did not know who we were. We were denied that kind of access to explore that. However, because of the brutality and the fear tactics, it grew us closer anyway. It made us rely on each other, made us a community. I remember, and you've heard me talk about this several times, my grandparents, my paternal grandparents, had 14 children, and yet they raised 3 more. And I remember one of my cousins saying to me, his mother told him, go up to so-and-so house. And he didn't exactly know what, but he did know what. They didn't have enough food to eat. And he knew that if I send my children up here, they're going to get fed. So she knew where to send her children, and would be no questions asked, because somebody was going to, that family was going to feed them just like they fed their own children. So, and I witnessed that with my neighbors as I grew up. I can't tell you, this is a man that had 10 children, and I don't know how many more that he raised just from people sending him kids because they didn't have. So, but I think looking at our neighborhoods and going back, all of these things need to be addressed, and look at the negative and the positive in them. From You guys have discussed this and led from what George's question was, from women being treated like the European woman as though she is property. The African woman had the wherewithal to say, I am not property. I'm more than this. I can be more than this. I have more to offer than this. And if you don't accept it, then that's okay. But all of that, I guess what I'm trying to say is a lot of stuff that was meant to be negative and divide also brought about some strength and some awareness of who we are. And let's not forget that part. And all of that has to be mended and brought together back into what the community supposed to be. But all of it did not have the negative effect that it was intended to, is all I'm saying.
I think it affected. Go ahead, George.
I was just, going to say that there's an African proverb that says, that the ruins of a nation starts at home. And when I'm thinking about what's being said, we have matriculated into a church community where I come to want to truly appreciate being a home church. When I say a home church, I'm talking about in terms of the cosmic mother, in terms of the rules, the love, the teachings, it all starts at home. And when we can appreciate, being able to realize how the institutions, or how artificial intelligence, or how other means of education has taken us away from that umbilical cord, where we can appreciate home church, home school, home community, home, in that way that we're living, according to, the principles that were there at the beginning. I think that when you had mentioned, laws begot laws. I mean, we have so many laws, that continues to evolve, where I think I was sharing with you, Pastor, in terms of Psalms 19, Psalms 19, verse 7, where it talks about the law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul, and the testimony of the Lord is sure, making the wise simple. I think, we made it so complicated now that how do we, we talk about beginnings, we talk about the cosmic number, we talk about harmony. And I think that those laws that sometimes we take for granted, or those utterances that we take for granted, those commandments, that we were taught, but then looking at the principles of Ma'at. And I think that we've just celebrated, certain holidays, back in December. But when I was just doing some reading in reference to Kwanzaa, it talks about the first word in terms of Umoja, which talks about unity. You know what I mean? To restore and bring harmony back to, the family. And so I just think that, in all of our dialogue, I'm just hearing, some things where we talk about oneness or we talk about unity. And I think that it all starts at home, and not to exclude or not to look at division. But I think that there was that home spirit of the cosmic mother, the home spirit of even, the father, in that way being one, that we can go back to those values to realize that, again, no one is perfect. But, why have we gotten so far away from someone mentioning the power of words? And again, it just, made me realize that I think it's important that we continue our conversation and revisit what we mean when we say home church. Not church in terms of how it was defined to us, but that home church in terms of the spirit of those who are family. I just wanted to share those thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Any response to George before excuse me. Someone sent me something in regards to what the three principles I've mentioned about if you give to a woman. This comes from a different person because of the way it's structured. This guy wrote, this Bridget novelist wrote that I think women are foolish to pretend that they are equal to men. They are far superior and always have been. Whatever you give a woman, she will make it greater. If you give her sperm, she give you a baby. You give her a house, she give you a home. You give her groceries, she gives you a meal. You give her a smile, she gives you her heart. She multiplies and enlarges whatever she is given. You give her grief and you go get a ton of grief back. I think that speaks to what we were talking about. What do you guys think?
It does.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. May I make a comment?
Of course.
Everything that you and George and Ron has said makes plenty of sense to me. And I just wish that more women would speak out. Maybe there are some who is not good speaking out, but I'm gonna tell you guys, I am a woman. I've seen my mom abused, and it got to the point where I could not focus in school, but I've seen some hurt things. And I think the moment the women, excuse me, said that enough, we're not putting up with your, you know what? That's when men, excuse me, that's when men thought that we were, I don't know what word to use, but they thought, I guess, that we were going against them. But Black men, I'm gonna tell you right now on this phone, we have been hurt, We have been blamed for stuff that we have not done. Everything has been blamed, like Pastor say, on the Black woman. And again, the moment we say enough, that's when we became disrespectful to the Black man. I'm not talking about the Caucasian. I'm talking about my brothers, my husband. A lot of Black men, I'm not saying they disrespected women, but you have hurt us so much. Excuse me, I got a cold. You have hurt us so much, you hurt us to our soul. And we had to put up with that. But the moment we said enough, you thought we were against you. And I said many times on this phone, we're not your enemy. We are your energy. So don't compare us to how other women feel about you, Black man. And just like what Pastor talked about, but he just read, the Black woman is your seasoning salt. We season everything you bring to us positive. So if it wasn't for us, you wouldn't be where you are. So it's time for us to be respected. Treat us the way we're supposed to be treated. And I know a lot of women feel the way I feel. They're not just saying anything, and that's fine. I'm saying it for you. Enough
sister.
is enough. Enough is enough. And that's why God made a way we can make our own money. So again, treat us the way we're supposed to be treated. All we ask for your love. That's all we ask for, to love me. Take care of me. That's all we want. I'm done.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
love you, Miss Evelyn.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
think you can say it.
That, if I could add to that, is the true resolution to the conflict. It is the strength of men must be in service to the natural wisdom that comes through women. And spiritually, metaphysically, it is the same relationship. Until that strength is redirected towards creating the harmony that women instinctively know needs to be created and instinctively understand how to create, then that abuse and disrespect will continue. And it was during, I would say, in my understanding, during the 60s and 70s, when there began to be a consciousness of resistance against the sort of European mindset as we think about it, that it was that sort of collective resistance that was the beginning of that process of the emergence of the righteous man within the mind of African men collectively and in the earth as a whole. And it is that at that same time period that European mindset that we talk about, which deeper than that is the mindset of white supremacy and selfishness, etc., struck back specifically and strategically against the emergence of that mindset of the righteousness of males, to put it simply. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. On the heels of what Nick has said, you've heard me say this, at least if you've been around me for many years, that we damaged our women. Black men, we damaged our women. And we must heal our women. And I'm not talking about individual, like Nick damaged his woman. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm talking about overall, we bought into the BS that was fed to us. And as a result of that, we hurt our women. Now, what are we doing? The majority of the responses on this call has been from men, African men. Why? Because we are in the process of healing our women. And I'm not just talking about the ones who are listening to my voice. I'm talking about worldwide. We are healing our women, regardless of where you go. whether it is France, England, Germany, wherever you go, you're going to find that we have been trained to damage our women. And now we're bringing healing to them by putting this in the macro. I was doing some research last night, and when I opened my book to make some notes, I came across something that I had written after I got home from my mama's funeral. And I had not thought about it or seen it since then until last night. I think it's ironic that we're having this, not ironic, I'm sorry. I think it's because we're having this conversation. What I wrote is that the last thing that I could do for my mama was the funeral. And the first thing that my mama is doing for me on my journey is showing me what I cannot see. I believe that speaks to as Nick put it, the wisdom of our women, the wisdom of the females around us. I believe that without this healing, there will be no stable society. And if we go back to the stability of societies, where were the most stable societies on earth? The most stable societies were in Africa. The instability came to families when Europeans found somebody else to kill other than each other. And we just happen to be those people. So now, in order to bring the stability that our ancestors experienced and now us, in order to bring that experience, we must embrace not only the wisdom, but the power, the strength, the compassion that our females have brought to the world, not just to us, but to the world. That is something that cannot be duplicated. It can only be expressed through an African mindset based upon the principles of Mayat. And by the way, Mayat is feminine. So those principles of Mayat, all of them are feminine. Why are they feminine? I believe the reason they are feminine is because they birth something in us. All of us, everyone who embrace those principles, something will be birthed in you. And if you read those principles, those 42 principles of Mayat, each one of them will tell you what will be birthed in you. And it is a continuous process of impregnation and birth. So having said that, I think this has been one of the most meaningful discussions of healing that we've had in quite some time. And I, as a male, have no problem being a shield between our women and the abuse that they have endured. I agree with Ron. Those things that were meant to destroy us that strengthen us. They only destroy you if you embrace them. They only hurt you if you embrace them. If you take the time to admit the fallacies of what we have been told about our women, if you take the time to understand that the negative things that we have as African men about our women came through indoctrination. As Nick and I said earlier, all of this has been pushed into our communities by intelligence agencies. And these agencies
And religious indoctrination.
and that's what I was going to. These intelligence agencies is not just CIA, FBI. These agencies of indoctrination is the church.
Isn't it something they're called intelligence agencies?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing would come out my mouth, Ron. Anyway, I don't want to get into it right now, but it is. The church is one of the strongest agents of indoctrination. And we have to mitigate that. Females to this day who are in churches are not respected, but they are subject to a sense of pseudo respect when there is something you want them to do. Is pseudo respect. Like, how you doing, darling? Good morning. All those little BS conversations, small talk. And she has no influence because we have been indoctrinated to believe that males are the dominant force, when in essence, it's not so. I'm done. Thank you, guys. You have any more wrenches to throw at, Audrey?
Not at this time.
Well,
Thank you.
Rev into the spiritual minded family, I gotta add this part. I agree with everyone that said, no disagreeing. I think our whole culture needs to be healed. Men and women and children. And just want to say this now. When the African American male stated that he was voting for Trump, a certain percentage of black folks ridiculed that man. That's his perspective. The community got to rally up behind him and say, look, that's who you want to vote for, go on and do what you do.
No, sir.
The African American, Rev, just hear me out, that's all.
I'll hear you out, but
Just hear me out.
Oh my Jesus. Go ahead.
Rev, when the African American male stated he's not voting for Kamala Harris, he's ridiculed just based on a decision. Why can't we just be like the energy of Miss Cassie? Whether you're Republican, Democrat, or Independent, I'm just glad you voted. And we went after them. Obama went after African American males, and I don't think he did it in the best way. Yet, if that's all Obama did wrong, he get to hell before I do. So we all got to be healed. We all need a community. And you all look at it. The African American male, who he had to protect himself and say, I ain't voting for Trump. And that African American male wasn't voting for no one. So we all got to be healed out here. If that black man want to vote for Trump, vote for him. You don't for Miss Harris, don't vote. We all need to be healed. Not just, that's that one aspect of feminine energy that I question. You make it into a gender. Femininity is genderless. Feminine energy is a gender. We all have to be healed. The same black men that don't abuse black women, they out here abusing black men. Look at what go on around you. And look at some things and process it. We all need to be healed. So that's all I had to say. Thank you all very much.
First of all, thank you. We talked about the change of a mindset so that that violence that you mentioned will not take place. That black man who voted for Trump, the reason that he's confronted is because he's voting against not only his self-interest, but the self-interest of his people. And I cannot embrace that. I cannot embrace someone who capitulates to the power of racism, because by voting for Trump, you are saying that white superiority is real, is true, and it should be supported. Because there is no way that anyone who is not a low information voter can say that they did not vote against their self-interest when they voted for Trump. They cannot say that Trump is the face of white superiority. They cannot say that the objective of white superiority is to diminish the African more so than anyone else. Because the African is the last one who benefited from DEI. The white woman, the Asians, the LGBT community, the Hispanics, and then us. We the last ones who benefited. We benefited the least from it. And that's because of people like voting for Trump. The people who voted for Trump, yes, they voted against their self-interest. What they did in essence is they changed the word from nigger to DEI. And every time that word comes out of his mouth, he's saying nigger. And there's no way I can embrace that. Thank you.
Go back, Pastor. DEI is again, tie that in. Please hold on 1 second, George.
Diversity, equality, and what's the
Inclusion.
inclusion? Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead, George.
Reb, we just discussing. We just talking. We just discussing now. This time last week, someone said the Creator had his hand involved in this election.
Right.
Could you just tie that in, Reb? I'm not saying I don't believe that, Reverend Richard.
Okay.
I just don't think the Creator concerned himself with politics. It's
Okay.
just an interesting topic to me, Reb. And it doesn't have to be done today. Based on the African American male, and it just wasn't African American males who voted for Trump. African American females did it too now.
Same thing.
Based on that, and then the Creator having his hand in that election. Now, I may be misquoting what I heard last week, and I thought it was said the Creator had his hand in it and wanted Trump in office. I thought that's what I heard. Just help me. It doesn't have to be done today, and Red, we just discussing.
Okay.
Help tie that in. Help tie it, and it ain't got to be done today, Red. It can be done
I need to
tomorrow
do
if
it
I'm
today.
still living.
This
All
needs
right, then go ahead, Red.
the bridge that connects both of those things. The Creator had his hand in it. However, we are supposed to do what we can to mitigate self-interest. I'm sorry, to mitigate voting against our self-interest. You do what you're supposed to do, and the outcome of what you do is in the hands of the Creator. The universe determines that. Now, the vote is simply a method of saying what you support. That's all. Now, as far as voting for Trump or Kamala, quite frankly, me, none of us chose Kamala or Trump. No, we only vote for who Europeans tell us to vote for. Because Europeans put up two people who we have no choice in choosing. And that's who we choose between. And we do what we're supposed to do, as I said earlier. Yet the universe has the final say so in that. And to see the power of that is Biden would not have been elected if he had not made a promise to Clyburn, a man who lied, because he said he was not going to endorse anyone until after the election. But when they saw Bernie Sanders was winning, that's when he endorsed Joe Biden, because Joe Biden's campaign was dead. And that promise came about the Supreme Court justice as well as the vice president. So again, these people were chosen for us. We didn't choose them. You vote for your best interest. And that's your voice saying, I do not support white superiority. And the universe has to rest. And the universe really answered our desires when you really think about it. When Kathy made her statements that pulled us back, she was simply saying that the universe adhered to our desires. Our desire was peace and harmony, balance. And balance apparently doesn't come until you're able to see what needs to be balanced. There has never been a time when systemic racism has been exposed the way it is being exposed now. Never. Since the inception of this country, it has never been exposed like it is being exposed now. And our mindsets were geared towards Kamala Harris because we wanted the best for humanity. And the Creator says the best thing for humanity is Donald Trump, because he's going to expose everything that needs to be brought into balance, and you will have the opportunity to see the things that you put in the macro. You will see the results of them by virtue of how people respond to systemic racism. Does that make sense to you, Mr. George?
Mr. James, all of it makes sense to me. And Reverend Richard, into my spiritual minded family now. Rev, when you said that on last week conversation, George, help me understand this. Look, man, I didn't say that. You got that man number. You call him up. You ask him to translate what he said. And they asked me, a couple of, George, you don't believe the Creator? Nah. No more than the Creator got something to do with the Philadelphia Eagles and Washington Commanders. I said, but if you want that interpretation, you got to call and ask that man yourself. I can't speak for you or speak for Reverend Richard. Yet, Reverend Richard, just as a suggestion, you're going to have to give that some attention for some people, what you meant by that. Because you can't, we say something in 5 or 6 minutes, and them 5 or 6 minutes, certain people know what you're saying in 5 or 6 minutes just based on energy and intimacy. Yet people who are new, their 5 or 6 minutes may be like 5 or 6 months. My homegirl out of Philly, she's still listening to the lesson about the cosmic mother and how things jumping off in September and stuff like that. So, Rev, how was my delivery and my tonality? Was I okay today?
Yeah, you were fine though with your tonality, but I wasn't.
All right, then I'll look to hear from y'all 11 o'clock tomorrow. Peace.
You out?
Oh no.
Okay.
I was saying I'm gone.
Kathy, were you about to?
Pastor.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I'm sorry. May I interject just one thing?
Yes.
I've listened quietly all day and not had a lot to say. But when I listened to this last part of the conversation, I just want to add one thought. There could have been a different pathway to get the same results, the balance that we were looking for, even through Kamala. But humanity always has a choice to make. And you always have an opportunity to choose for the right reasons. Now, what was said when we went to these males who decided they were voting for Trump for whatever reason, the reason that I heard the most, and I know this is not every black male or every person that voted for Trump, but the majority of the people that I heard voting said they were voting because they had more money. Now, this whole campaign was not done in a bubble, in darkness. Everybody knew Project 2025 was out there. Everybody on every news channel that listened to real news, not quote unquote fake news, was hearing what was contained in that project and what he was going to implement from day one. And he said, I will be a dictator from day one. The Palestinians said, you know what, before I vote for that black woman, I'm going to take my chances with Trump. And now all of these people are crying foul. Even as he started to move into the realm of this presidency, I heard a lot of people say, well, Biden and Kamala are being quiet. Why aren't they saying and doing anything? Because you made your choice. So it's not just about the vote. It is what is the motive of your vote? What is the reason that you're voting? And the selfishness to say that I'm voting, the hell with everybody else who may suffer as long as I am padding my bank account, I have a problem with that. So yeah, Kamala could have been a pathway to show us balance and usher us right on into the spiritual movement where we're going. But I think it was someone last week said Israel wanted that king. And the thing that she didn't say in the end was what happened when they got that king. That king destroyed them. So because you did not choose the path that was best for humanity, but you chose for selfish reasons, now here we are. We're all in this thing together, and we're going to go through this together. But yeah, that could have been a second alternative. We could have moved in and still ushered into place the same spirituality through Kamala, but there are some lessons that you have to learn the hard way. So to just say this thing about, well, don't denigrate me for just voting, what was your motive for voting? If you were voting for more money, I'm going to denigrate you because you didn't think about humanity at all. And I just can't overlook that, and I can't be quiet to that, because these things from what I heard, and if you heard other reasons, by all means chime in. Let me know what you heard. Because the people that I was hearing had one or two agendas: to keep a black woman out of a position or to pad their income. I didn't hear another reason why people voted for Trump. They already knew he was a buffoon and ruthless and heartless and cold and would do anything to anyone because he does not care about humanity. They wrote books about him being unhinged. Everybody looked the other way and went in and pressed the lever or punched that little sheet and said, I'm voting for him because it will keep the black woman in her place. So, you know, I'm a little emotional listening to all this today because it's almost like we miss the big picture here. Did you vote for yourself or did you vote for the good of humanity? Because there is a difference. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Nick?
Oh, no. I wasn't going to say anything. I left my
Okay.
mic on.
Well said, though. Well said, and it was very necessary.
I'm glad you added that too, by the way.
Now, Reb, I'll say this in conclusion. I was disappointed in Ms. Harris. As a former federal prosecutor, I thought she could handle a convicted felon a little bit better than what she did. I was disappointed. I was looking forward to that debate, and so were my friends, because we wanted righteousness to win one time on the front end, not on the back end, not 20 years later. And we were very excited to watch the debate, yet we were very disappointed. Well, I can't speak for all of them. I was disappointed, Rev. You're a federal prosecutor, and you can't handle a convicted felon of 34 counts. But that's all I had to say. What is what is now. Just deal with it. Concentrate on the 42 laws of Ma'at to be the best version that you can be. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Kamala Harris was not the problem in that. The bigger problem in that, whereas Kathy said, people voting for money, people voting against an African woman. And Trump said that Elon Musk know how to handle those computers, especially ones that you use to vote. I tell you, he know what to do with those computers, especially in Pennsylvania. What was he saying? All of us know what he was saying. I'm good with that, because that was supposed to happen the way it did. Otherwise, it would not have happened. The Hispanics, I heard an interview with them, and they were saying, where are the Black people? Talking about us helping them. When they voted for the one who said he was going to deport them. One man's wife is now, she has been deported because she was not documented, but she was married to him, and he was. Then the Palestinians said that we go take our chance with Trump. The Palestinians, especially the ones in Michigan and Wisconsin, we go take our chances with Trump. And the first thing that Trump said about all of them was, we're going to clean that place out, talking about Gaza. And the only thing he talks about Gaza about is that's waterfront property. They got what they asked for. Now, do you think for a moment that once these hostages are released, once all of them are released, do you think for a moment that Israel is not going back to doing what they were doing? They just want the hostages out now. And once they get them, watch and see what happens. So what am I saying? I am saying that not only did Black women, Black men vote against their self-interest, but a whole slew of people of color voted against their own self-interests. And they voted for the wrong reasons. You got your king. Now let's see how you are going to fare with your king. And we are the ones, as much as we might not like it, we are the ones who have to have a heart for those people who did what they did in terms of their votes. Obviously, the Creator says, as Kathy mentioned, some people have to learn the hard way. And that's what's happening right now. We cannot say that we don't care what happened to the Palestinians, the Hispanics. We can't say that. We have to understand that they are children who made a grave error, and they not only must be forgiven, but also the error that they made must be corrected by those who love humanity. That's who we are. That's what we do. What?
Audrey, did you have something? No?
Audrey,
If she doesn't, I do.
Okay.
This is Evelyn again. After I expressed how I felt, how the melanated woman has been treated, I know every question that comes on this to this family, it needs to be addressed. I understand that, but I felt like we brought our issue to the family, to the platform, and after Pastor had said what he said, it's like, what? And maybe I'm looking at this wrong. It's like, okay, well, we gonna put how the woman feel on the side. It's like a man buying his woman who he never pays that much attention on during the year, but Valentine's Day he buy her candy and roses, and after that he go and watch a basketball game or a football game. It's like, I don't know how to explain how I feel. But anyway, I'll say this to my melanated sisters on the phone. We're not going to be loved right until a man starts loving himself. And the moment he starts loving himself, that's when I think things going to really, really change. But what has just been said with this political stuff is like, y'all dealt with us. Pastor, you said what you said, everybody. But the moment y'all finished with what about the woman or whatever, it's like we were put on the side. And that hurt, because I know I'm not the only woman who's crying inside, who done been in my car crying because I have been abused, and seeing other women who have been abused. Enough. So black melanated man, start loving yourself so we can be put in our place, so we can be back to where we were in the beginning. And black melanated women, start loving yourself. Enough is enough. That's all I wanted to say.
thank you.
I guess the first time Evelyn spoke, it made me think about something. When I was a little boy, and I'm talking 8 or 10 years old, I remember when someone in the family came home drunk and jumped on his wife. They'd come get my dad. The kids would come get my dad. And it made me admire him greatly. He never got a weapon. He never got anything. And sometimes he might be gone all night, but he go do whatever he do and handle the situation. And I remember one time I asked the question, why does she stay there? Why is she still there? And my dad said, where would she go? And there was, of course she could have come to stay with us, and she had other siblings. But for the most part, if you think about it, we all come out of poverty. And there wasn't a safe place for her to go to feel protected, really. And so this is an age-old thing. And the reason why I tried to express earlier when Audrey brought it up, that we need to address our own neighborhoods too, is because if you go all the way back to slavery and you see the from the time they were captured and put on the ship, there was division, there was separation, and women were taken and done what they were supposed to. And you've heard me talk about the Constitution of the U.S. If white women were treated as property, what do you think the black women were going to be treated as? So out of frustration, out of anger, out of being emasculated, if I'm saying that correctly, the black man started treating his woman like property because he didn't feel like a man. So I guess I'm saying that we're all broken and none of it has been right. And I appreciate everything you said, and I appreciate you bringing it to the surface. And a lot of it is we may not know what to say right now, but it will be addressed. We're not gonna stop talking about this. So thank you again, and I love what you said earlier. We are not your enemy; we're your energy. That I love that. I absolutely love that, and that's what I think that just means this is a continuous conversation. And every time we have it, not only do we put more out there in the macro, we heal ourselves as well. So thank you. That's my 2 cents worth.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Well, Evelyn, I understand how you feel because you feel kind of like you're not actually being heard. And I know that feeling. But it's going to take, discussing it more and more, coming around to it until you are heard. So I appreciate you bringing it up, and please do continue to bring it up when needed. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome, family. You're welcome.
Okay. Beautiful day, beautiful discussion, and we will revisit this. Trust me. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for your words and your thoughts and your desires. And hold on to it, and we will meet again tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Okay? Thanks again, y'all. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Everybody.
Thanks, everyone.